So moving forward, one of the things that's going to make our lives a little bit easier is the ability to take in input from the user. Instead of just having to hard code whatever the things are that we're trying to work with, if we can actually take input from the user, we can then test our code for a whole bunch of different situations, or of course, just making something that's usable by the user is something that is good to have as well. So we're going to go ahead and check out how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new file. This is going to be called just user input.java. So we're going to start out just like normal. Make our class user input. And one thing that's worth noting here is the fact that we've been talking a whole bunch about classes and how to make classes, but that's actually not what our goal is here. We're not going to make a whole bunch of attributes or anything. So our class that we're creating now is sole intent is just to be run, and to do something. So public static void main. This is a string array and then args. All right. OBS, the thing that I use for recording these videos, just got an update and it's really throwing me off. But I'm gonna figure it out. It's not gonna be a big deal. So here's what we're gonna do. If we want to take input from the user, we're gonna actually end up using this class. It's called the scanner class, and it's already created for us. It's actually inherent in Java, and it's gonna allow us to create these objects that allow us to take user input from the command line. So the way that works is just like any other object or any other class that we've been using, we have to declare a variable of that type. So scanner, and then we can call it whatever. Just how about we just call this? How about user input? That makes sense. User input equals, and then we're declaring a new object. It's going to be of type scanner. And it's going to take in one input, and that input is something special, system.in. So we've seen system before whenever we have used system.out.println or system.out.print. System.out is just a way of, I'm not going to get too far into this right now, but just a way of accessing the command line, being able to print something out to the console. System.in is the same idea, so now we're taking input, taking things from the console and doing with them. So I'm not going to get too far into that right now, but system.in is just this variable that kind of controls that. So scanner, user input, new scanner, system.in. Let's just go ahead, let's just start by compiling this and seeing what happens. And so if I go and I compile this, so this is Java compile, and this is user input. .java, what I'm going to get is, of course, an error. And the question is why? And the answer is that it doesn't know what scanner is. So if we look, it says cannot find symbol here. So cannot find symbol means that we're trying to reference something that Java doesn't know what's going on, which in this case is scanner is what it's pointing at. And so I already told you that scanner is this thing that's inherent in Java. I was kind of lying, but not really. The thing is that we need to tell it what this scanner thing is so that we can use it. Otherwise, Java doesn't really know. So everything we've done up to this point is that whenever we've been working with classes, for example, when we made our duck classes, and we were running or using the duck class in another program, it was fine because everything was inside the same folder. However, the scanner class that we're trying to reference here is not in the same folder. We actually have to let Java know that we're getting it from someplace else. So the way that we do that is we say import, and then so this is a special class that's in the Java utilities, what it's called. So actually, let's see. I'm just going to look up the Java docs really quick. So Java, I'll just go scanner class. Java scanner class. All right. So if I look at the scanner class here it is. And what I'll notice is a couple things. So this is something that, like I said, was inherent in Java. I can read through a whole bunch of stuff for how it works. But what it says is that it's this subclass. Java.util.scanner is part of this java.util, what's called package, or kind of class. Right now, we're just going to call it a package. And so it has java.util has all these things in it that, well, they're utilities. They're different things that we can use in Java. So what we have to do is import this entire package, this Java utility package, or rather a portion of it, so that we can use it. So the way that it works is I type in import and then java .util. So if I just do that, it's actually not going to work. It's not going to be quite enough because then it still doesn't know what scanner is. So what I can do is I can type .scanner. So I specifically want to import the scanner class from Java utilities. That's one way of doing this. Another way of doing this you're going to see very commonly is that if I just include an asterisk here, that's just going to include or import all of the different classes in java.utilities. And I could do that, but I'm just going to be a little specific about what I'm actually trying to do. So if I go ahead and I save this and I run it, or rather compile it, because when I run it, it's not actually going to do anything, I'm good. It compiles. Awesome. Now, like I said, I haven't actually done anything with it yet, so the question is, what do I do with it? So this is what I can do. So the input from the user a lot of times is going to be a string, and so what I need to do is make a new string element, call it, I don't know, let's just go with text, equals, and then we want to get the strings that are in the user's input right now. So the way that I do that is I'm going to call a method on my user input, which is that variable there. So on user input, the method I'm going to call is .next. And so what this is going to allow me to do is get the next string. Now, there's no context to this right now, so like let's add some context. So let's say we were creating a very friendly program, system.out.print line, and we wanted to ask the user, it's like, hello, what is your name? Question mark. Perfect. And so that's good. And what this is going to do now is it's going to allow us to type in something and then get that input from us. And so this friendly computer program that we're creating here is going to system.out.print line, and then it'll say nice to meet you space, and then the text that we just got. Okay, let's go ahead and then see if this works. So I'm gonna go compile. Marvelous. And then I'm going to run this. Java user input. Hit enter. Hello, what is your name? And I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna be formal. Joseph Michael. Perfect. And it just says nice to meet you, Joseph. That's interesting. So I typed in my full name, and what it did was it just gave me one portion of that. So that's kind of odd. I don't know why that is. So actually I do. We don't know why that is. So what we have to go back and realize is that this .next, the way the scanner class works is that it's actually pulling the next thing, but separated by white space. So that means the return key, that means tabs, that means spaces. And so what it actually does is it just grabs up to the next word in that white space that follows it. And so, for example, we could do this again. String text 2 equals user input dot next, and then text plus, and then text 2. And what will happen here is, I don't know. Joseph Michael Zeller. It'll give me those first two names now, right? It's going to always try and grab that next element. So scanner's kind of like storing everything that's being input. But then whenever I'm using these next commands, it's just giving me the next thing that's kind of been stored up to that point. So what are some ways around this? Well, I do have one thing that's available to me. If I want to ignore white space, and get the entirety of that next line. This won't be shocking to you, but I can use next line. If I use a next line method, what it'll do is it'll ignore the white space and it'll take everything on that line. So in this case, try it again. Perfect. And now I'll grab that entirety of the next line, not just one word from it. So that's two functions now that we've seen, next and next line. Another one is, okay, so let's say our friendly program doesn't care about our name anymore, but instead cares about what is your favorite number? Number, question mark. And so I can do this again. I can, let's say I want to, this should be an integer, right, is what I should be getting if it's a number. Just call it number equals, and then let's see, so user input dot next. All right, so if we do this, and then we will, well, let's just test it. I'm not gonna write anything else because I know that this is not going to work out. The question is why though? So it says incompatible types. I tried to, let's see, string cannot be converted to an integer. It's pointing to the fact that next returns a string and what we're trying to store it in is a number. So even though you might be typing in a number, Java doesn't care. The next method always returns a string. So that's fine. If I want to, I can do this. I can system.out.print line, just say nice choice, and then append the number to it. Really struggling today. All right, so if we go back and we test this, 42. Nice choice, 42, great. So the thing is though, is that it's storing it as a string. If I actually want to do some calculations on this, so for example, if I wanted to say, oh, I don't know. Well, what if I wanted the computer to actually change our number? Well, I can't. It's not being stored as a number. So how do I get a number instead? And the answer is, well, there's something for that. So next integer. So next integer is going to return the next number that's available to me. So in this case, let's see. So number equals user input next integer. Great. So what I can do is nice choice, comma, but a better choice would have been, and then we'll put this in number plus 1. Okay. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to take in a number as an integer. It's going to be stored as an integer, and so then I can actually do some arithmetic if I want to. And so I've saved it. Now I can go and I can run it. Compile and run. And my favorite number is 42, obviously. Nice choice, but a better number would have been 43. Oops, left out my space. Okay, so that did exactly what I wanted it to. It took in an integer value this time, which is great. So what other things can I take in? Well, I can also take in doubles because, for example, ooh, this will be an interesting error. Okay, let's go ahead and actually it won't be an error. It'll be something else. So what is your favorite number? What if I try to tell it my favorite number is 4.2? I hit enter. Aha! So I don't get an error. I get what's called an exception. So exceptions are things that happen at runtime. Errors typically happen. Most errors, syntax errors, for example, happen at compile time. So the compiler catches them. But there are some errors, which aren't really errors, that the compiler can't catch. Because in this case, we wrote everything correctly, but the Java didn't know that when we asked for a number that the user was going to give not an integer. And so we get thrown what's called an exception. An exception in this case is input mismatch exception. So the input that it was expecting, which was an integer, did not match what it got, which was a double in this case, or a floating point number rather. And so it throws this exception at runtime. And so I need to go and fix that if I want to. So what I can do is if I want to instead take in, for example, a double, I should have left that just as number, I can, of course, get my next double instead. And so, okay, so I think it's everything that I want. And so now I'm just taking care of the fact that, well, now a user can put in an integer or a double. It doesn't matter. I can type in 4.2. Nice. I could do it again. I can type in just 42. It doesn't care because integer will just be cast to a double. So I can take in doubles as well. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other methods that are involved in my scanner class. But the ones I care about for the most part for right now are going to be next, which just takes in a string up until my first white space. Next line, which takes in the entirety of the next line up until the next return. I've got next integer, which obviously takes in integer, next double, which takes in a floating point number. So yeah, so this is how I can take user inputs using the scanner class. But to be able to use the scanner class, I need to, of course, import it first because Java doesn't know what it is. So now moving forward, we can use this to our advantage. And it allows us to kind of better test our program sometimes. And then also just makes our programs more usable by someone that's not us.